Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Ukraine has put its army on high alert, claiming 40,000 Russian troops amassed on the border with the disputed region of Crimea. Moscow had threatened to take action after claiming armed Ukrainian forces were trying to carry out terrorist acts and warned it could cut diplomatic ties with Kiev altogether. And this afternoon, Russia announced it has deployed its advanced S-400 air defence missile system to the peninsula, which it annexed in 2014. Our international editor, Lindsay Hilsum, reports.
It's a classic Crimean summer, swimming amongst the battleships. Russians have been encouraged to holiday there since 2014, when President Putin annexed Crimea. But now, the Russian authorities say danger lurks beyond the Golden Sands. This is a drill to counter underwater sabotage attacks, part of a military exercise in the Black Sea, following what the Russians say was an attempted terror attack by undercover Ukrainian agents. Today, Russian TV showed a car and hidden explosives allegedly seized from the supposed saboteurs. They paraded a bruised Yevhen Panov, saying he's a spy. The Ukrainians say he's a former fighter kidnapped by the Russians.
Defence in the south of Ukraine is our priority, as the Russian authorities are issuing provocative statements and lies, and Crimea is being militarised.
Today, Russia deployed S-400 anti-aircraft missiles in Crimea and hinted that relations with Ukraine could deteriorate further.
As for breaking diplomatic relations, I wouldn't want that to happen. But if there's no other option left to influence the situation, the president could make such a decision.
Pictures of President Putin proudly reclaiming Crimea from Ukraine went down well in Russia. As the economy falters and a month before parliamentary elections, he may want to whip up nationalism again. But today, he was busy sacking one of his oldest and most loyal lieutenants, his chief of staff.
Dear Sergei Borisovich, we have been working successfully together for many years. I'm happy with how you handle tasks in your line of work. I remember well our agreement that you had asked me not to keep you as chief of the presidential administration for more than 4 years. And that is why I understand your desire to choose another line of work.
President Putin sees the partial ban on the Russian Olympic team for doping as an anti-Russian Western conspiracy, another possible reason for stirring things up in Crimea. But who needs the Olympics when you have the Army Games, including the armoured vehicle slalom, underway in Russia now, and featuring friendly countries such as China and Zimbabwe? It's just a competition, of course, showing off skills and equipment. But Russia's border with Ukraine is more tense today than it has been for more than a year. And there's a military message in the fun and games.
Lindsay Hilsum. Well, earlier I spoke to the Ukrainian ambassador to the UK, Natalia Galabarenko, and I asked her about Russian allegations that her country has committed an act of terrorist sabotage in Crimea.
All these are fantasies. And even at some point, like, I admire the conspiracy theories of the Russian Federation, invented, of course, by them. Because, you know, to try to depict this situation happened as we see it, as an internal quarrel between the Russian intelligence and the Russian military, to depict it as some intelligence from Ukraine incursion. It's quite a funny thing.
But you want to reclaim Crimea. It is entirely possible that you would be involved in some sort of undercover tactics.
Just the opposite, because we, of course, proclaimed that our idea would be at some point to finally reintegrate Crimea into Ukraine. But we are looking realistically at the situation. the way of destabilizing situation in Crimea in some way or another, it's not the best option to show people who are living at the peninsula that Ukraine is the best option for them. So we choose from the very beginning peaceful and diplomatic reintegration with the Crimea.
Vladimir Putin says the supposed attacks are criminal and Russia will not leave them unanswered. Now, that is dangerous, isn't it? Does that unnerve the Ukrainians?
Of course, it's a dangerous message, and that's why our president has already proclaimed their status of high alert for all our military forces.
But that's dangerous too, to respond by upping the ante militarily, isn't it?
We will not be responding, of course, in military terms to the Russian Federation, because we do understand where the military force is standing. But however, we are interested, of course, in the peaceful solution of the situation as a whole, and most of all, in the continuation of the negotiation process within the Minsk format.
We know, the new British Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, has only said just today that Britain needs to normalise its relationship with Russia after many years of fraught relationships. Are you worried about that?
Not really. I'm not worried because I know what is the position of the UK government. So they are ready to discuss with the Russian Federation at certain level international agenda, such as Syria, Iran, because it's like obvious that without Russia, this conflict, for example, in Syria could not be resolved in the nearest time. But this doesn't mean at any sense that the UK will reboot its policy towards Russian Federation.
Are you confident
and they will become,
of that?
Absolutely. I don't see any practical signs that showing that policy, for example, towards supporting Ukraine is just changed.
Donald Trump said recently that Putin will never go into Ukraine. He seemed not to know that they were there already. What did you make of that?
Maybe this is part also of pre-electoral campaign of Mr. Trump trying to raise some sympathies or even to shock some of electorate of Americans in the United States. But again, I do hope that, pre-electoral campaign is something playing with the electorate.
And in terms of how you see the situation with Russia and Crimea playing out in the next few weeks and months, how do you see it?
Now, at this stage, I exclude any massive attack against Ukraine. Merely even proceeding from the fact that Russian Federation, they were not looking for any real pretext to unleash attack against Ukraine.
Ambassador, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've been getting